Okay,
No.
good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second meeting of the year. Um, Thanks to Janice who made her time to be here today out of the busy schedule, how busy you are. What I'm just going to do real quick is to just go through the formalities, but then move you up so that you can talk. And we'll continue. Call to order. It's 6:02 by my time. Call to the audience. I don't see any members of the audience.
There's a okay guy.
Okay, were you planning to speak?
No.
Okay, alright. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. 01/09/2017. Does anyone have any objection to?
I didn't have the chance to look at them, but that's on me.
Okay. Does anyone have any objection to approving the minutes? No objection. Is there a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there ayes? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nays? Abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay. Old business. So, sorry. Can someone? I think I skipped approval of the agenda. For some reason, I was gonna move Janice up, but if you don't mind, I'm still gonna do that either way. So, Janice, we're gonna talk about Supreme Court and skip all the other 2 items. So go for it, Janice.
I think the big thing here is I came to just answer any last minute questions you have regarding the Supreme Court, how it all functioned, any of the processes of it. And this was kind of me coming here so not to be bombarded with 25 emails. With all kinds of little questions to just kind of be able to answer any of those last minute questions you may have that may, after you review the documents or from last week's meeting, where both Russ and I were present, so that's just kind of why I'm here, so it's really much to answer any questions.
I have a very functional question. Where is this on the agenda?
I just said Supreme Court.
Part C.
Okay.
C.
Or numbers, letter C.
So I definitely had a question.
Okay.
Okay, so I already emailed you and I got a response from, I think, a student who works with you, but,
It's our Chief Justice, Russ Johnson.
okay.
He is the Chief Justice. He was the one that was at the meeting
Okay.
last week.
So I didn't quite understand even with an answer, so for everyone else's knowledge, the question I had was, if you look at rule number 4 in, I guess the procedures that we're looking to approve, part E says, during oral arguments, parties may be represented by any law student from the University of Arizona College of Law who is currently a Juris Doctor candidate and has completed a bachelor's degree. The court highly recommends representation by counsel. If requested, the Chief Justice may grant leave to hire attorney representation. So the part I didn't understand was why the wording was so specific. Everything after University of Arizona College of Law, the part that says, currently a Juris Doctor candidate and has completed a bachelor's degree. So I asked just what was the goal of that wording, and the answer I got was that it was supposed to exclude AJDs and SJDs and undergraduate students.
As well as
And
Masters of Legal Studies students as well.
and LLMs, I assume, as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was supposed to only allow traditional JD students to participate in acting as representation for ASUA Supreme Court stuff. So now that I know why the wording's like that, or like I know the goal of the wording, I'm actually still not sure why AJDs, SJDs, LLMs, what MLS or something would all be
Masters of
excluded.
Legal Studies. Yeah.
So I contacted the College of Law reps to see if they had any ideas, and they actually are also kind of curious about this. So I guess, yeah.
So that would have been handy, right, knowing you were contacting the law school reps, because the big thing is we want to make sure the law school reps, and because they've been in communication with our Chief Justice about things, because they're working also on trying to recruit lawyers to serve in this students to serve in this lawyer capacity. So it's helpful that everyone knows what's going on, and we don't have these one-off conversations, because it makes it really difficult when our Chief Justice or any of the 5 justices get, stopped outside of class and be like, hey, what's going on with this? And then they're like, well, wait a minute, I thought that was, plus all communication traditionally goes through me and or the clerk and then goes to the chief, and then he speaks to the other justices, and then they come and get back.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why that was put in place actually like last year under ASUA rules, and the reason why is a couple things. So one, it's to kind of make sure that the big thing is to make sure that's an even playing field. So if you keep in mind, if I am an LLM student, I could be an LLM student right now. I have 10 years of legal experience practicing as a lawyer in Tucson. That's a big difference than me big difference between me arguing against stress than me arguing against someone who has 10 years of legal experience. So if you have a law student who is a traditional JD student, they are more likely to have just their bachelor's degree, maybe in some case a master's degree, but they're the traditional JD student who's doing a 3-year program. If you're an LLM student, you could be an attorney full on right and have who knows how many years of experience. The same thing with the SJD students. Those are students who are not really practicing law. Those are students who are academics only. This is designed for those students, an opportunity for those students who are actually going to be practicing attorneys. AJD students, in addition, along those same things, those AJD students are international students who come over here, and a lot of the times, they are already lawyers in their home country. So they've come here to get a JD here, but they're already attorneys, sometimes even judges in their home country. That's a big difference. If I was a law student, when I was a law student, thinking about the fact that I'm gonna argue against someone who has 10, 15, maybe even 20 years legal experience, opposed to someone else who just is a lawyer. That's the other reason they don't traditionally allow, and the court has been asked and it has been denied, the idea of allowing a practicing attorney to be paid to represent someone. So that has been asked for in the past, and since I've come on board as their advisor, and it's not my decision, it's the court's decision, they said that they don't like that because they don't feel like it's fair. It puts parties who have money and resources on the other side at a disadvantage. So that's really why they put that in place. And they put that in place to make it clear that this is for something who's gonna be practicing attorneys, for them to get this opportunity and get this experience. And make sure that it's a pretty level playing field as best as they can. So that's why they have that in place.
So, I sort of understand, but at the same time, it seems like there could be reasons why either professionally or academically, an LLM or an SJD or an AJD would want this type of real-world experience and would have it denied to them. So I understand keeping the current rules for ASUA because ASUA does not have a vested interest in graduate and professional student well-being, basically. But GPSC does, and we're supposed to represent all graduate and professional students, not only a subset of them. And so it seems like it would be a nice gesture for GPSC to say that for GPSC-related disputes, all 4 of those categories would
Actually,
be
no.
allowed.
I wouldn't allow for it because I can tell you, I know people who've gone through the Masters of Legal Studies program. It's not the same. They don't get any of the same.
No, not
experiences.
LLMs. Because yeah, I know they have a different
They
background.
don't LLMs. No, that's different. I know people who have LLMs in tax. Those are students who are already lawyers. It really puts the students. It creates a very unequal playing field for students who are wanting this opportunity. So, I'm just telling you from a student perspective, and this is something that our court last year put into place. They wanted this because they want to make sure there's an even playing field for people, and it's not. You're already going to have a skewed playing field. You have a 3rd-year law student representing against a 1st-year law student. You can sometimes skew, but not necessarily. I've seen it actually work out the other way, where the 1st year could be better. But that's just my thing, is that it can really kind of skew the process.
Can I just give a quick example? Because I know somebody in my department who got his JD from the University of Arizona, has been a practicing lawyer in town for 25 years, maybe more. And he came back and got his LLM and is also thinking about getting his SJD. So if it were me and I was going to this court and I had the opportunity, I would 100% have this person represent me if given the opportunity. You know why? Because he's been in practice for 25 years and knows what he's doing. Like, I'm not kidding. I think he would decimate like most people. And I don't think that it would be fair for other people, like whoever was like, if this was a complaint against me, I think that he would easily probably get around that. So I just think that this makes sense because, and 2, it just seems like you don't want to have LLM students are only here for what, 1 year usually?
Yeah.
So like by the time, when do they get appointed to the court? Would it be before?
Well, this would be
they
as just representation, right? This wouldn't be on the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
Well,
the
I mean,
Supreme Court
that's what I
students
meant.
have to be JD
But
students.
can you just have anybody, like, do they have to be affiliated with the court already, or can you just get any JD student?
It can be any JD
Okay.
student. So we've had in the past first-year law students who represent, they always ask if it's an opportunity they can do, and we always encourage like, yes, this is definitely an opportunity you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a prime example. We had a first-year law student last year who's now a member of the court. So she came on, represented one of the parties in the matter, she did an excellent job, and then she's come on, she went ahead and, when we had justice openings this last year, she went ahead and applied for one of those justice openings, and she was selected as one of our new justices this year. That's just a prime example. But I can imagine, she did a great job, but I can imagine like her going against someone who is a 25-year practicing attorney. You know, lawyers can retire, judges can retire after that period of time and then decide to go get their SUD, become professors. I wouldn't wanna go against someone if I was arguing against someone who'd been a 25-year practicing lawyer who was a judge. And then I'm gonna go against them, and I'm a first-year law student who's straight out of college, who's 25 years old, who's going against someone who has, you know, you can't compare the experience.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I just think that and it's nice because it does give those JD students experience if they wanna do this. Daniel?
I'm just wondering if, I understand exactly what you're saying, like I don't want lawyers who are actual lawyers going against law students. What I'm wondering is if these people who are in this, sort of gray area category could be on tap for those sorts of, lawyerly things that are not, like when we're needing someone to look over our documents and so on, rather so that we can, bring those people into the GPSC in a serious way, but without having to overwhelm JD students who don't have the kind of trial experience. Because I would like to have an actual lawyer look over the things we're writing.
Yeah,
I think
or
that's what
or
we
an
should do.
LLM
So
student,
those
and then,
people-
yeah.
those
No, I
would
think
be
that's
available.
that's a fine idea, Danielle,
Okay.
that having that where, for our argument purposes, that you have to be a current Juris Doctorate student, but if you wanna assist on like revising like elections code or anything like that, as long as you're currently enrolled at the law school.
Okay.
So how-
Consider to be a student.
How
And
hard
just
is
make
it-
sure to accept out those BA
Yeah.
and law students, cause otherwise you will have a problem with that.
Yeah.
How hard is it normally to find student representation for ASUA cases?
It depends. It really depends on the issue, it depends on the timing, it depends on really the timing and where in the semester it falls, cause it can be very tricky, cause law students get very busy.
Right.
So that is one of the reasons we are working, Russ has been working closely with Storm and Ellen, the law school reps, on, recruiting, and they're working with Student Bar Association, to recruit students to be on a rolling list that I would have access to with all the students' contact information, so that when something comes up, a matter is to come forth, I could give the party who says, I need a student lawyer to represent me, I could be like, okay, here's a list of these 5 students who said that they'd be willing to assist in a matter, contact them, and whoever is available would be willing to assist.
Because it just sounds to me like if there's ever a time where something gets delayed because you can't find student representation, it seems like then it would make sense to maybe ask LLMs, SJDs, AJDs, do you guys have time, and try to make sure that the case has an LLM, SJD, or AJD on both sides rather than a traditional JD versus someone with 25 years experience. Because that would still result in a level playing field, but would also benefit the students because now they don't have to wait as long for their case to be heard.
They don't wait as long for the case, so it doesn't delay their case to be heard, because they only have a certain time in which in order to submit things, and then the oral arguments are scheduled. Law students understand when this opportunity is presented them to represent a party in front of the Supreme Court, the Student Government Supreme Court, that they understand that it's a very quick turnaround and they have a very short time frame in order to do it, and that they may never be used or they may be used. So it just kind of depends. And sometimes the students will be like, I'm really, like we've had students who've come forward from law school who have helped ACUA elections with updating their code, but not been available to actually do the oral argument. So they brought in a classmate of theirs and they're like, hey, can you do the oral argument for me? Because I've been able to revise the documents, but now they have a matter that's in front of the court and I can't handle it. I just, their schedule might not allow. They may be participating in an oral argument competition somewhere across the country. Like that happens. Our students over at the law school become very busy very quickly. So I think it's fine that if we were to limit it for matters that actually come before the court, that it has to be a JD student, but then you can open it up to, like what Daniel said, open it up to any currently enrolled law student could assist and matter and be consulted. That's not a problem at all.
Okay, where would that language be?
I think,
don't remember.
aren't you working on putting together a stable of lawyers for that exact purpose? So could you, for us, expand this or make sure the search is including this?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can and what we can do is we could just have them all on the list, and then we could have a running list of the lawyers, and then I can have where they are in their program.
Okay.
And then just make sure that the JD students, and that it's made clear to those non-JD students that they can't do the oral arguments, only the JDs can.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know that that like specifically needs to be in the Supreme Court docs, cause
No.
everything with the Supreme Court information is specifically related to court and
Yeah, this was the only
appeals.
spot I saw Juris Doctor specifically, so
Right.
it's likely that we don't need to change the wording of anything for
Right,
other students to be consulted on, like just opinions or whatever.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something I'd missed or something
sure,
like that.
absolutely.
And then the one last thing, like, this is gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but I was asked by one of the law students I talked to bring this up. I guess most, but not all, AJDs and SJDs and LLMs are international students, and so this does look kind of discriminatory against international students, and feel free to just say we've already gone over this, if that's what you wanna say.
That is true, the majority of them are, international students. Again, it comes back to the same issue again. I know a lot of the AGD students are usually, over a lot of them, they are lawyers, a lot of them that I've worked with or encountered in some capacity are lawyers in their home country.
Okay.
Like, some of them are judges. They have been judges in their home country and then they come here to get their law degree so they can practice here in the United States. There's a couple that I've worked with, done processed, helped them with immigration paperwork, notarizing documents for them, and they were like, nope, I'm a judge back in whatever country. I'm from, oh, I'm a lawyer, I've been a lawyer in my home country for 10 years, whatever it is. And so that's the only,
Okay.
that's a bit of an issue.
Okay, sounds like we, Daniel, do you have another thing to add to this
One
item?
thing, this is not for Janice, from Alma, we're just changing the bit about the elections, commission to say that members of the elections commission cannot be elected as writing candidates either.
Okay.
I'm just putting that in there.
Yeah.
And then also they can't work as members of other people's campaigns.
Megan?
And in addition to the commission, Janice and I have talked about this, I think it would be good to open it up to general, non-GPSC related students. I mean, I'm not,
Agreed.
frankly not really sure why it has to be
Yes.
GPSC related. I think it would be better to be
It worked.
non-GPSC, and
Okay,
we will always make sure there is a commission.
Okay.
so then I will change this where it says representatives to 3 people, 3 graduate students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, through graduate professional.
Professionals, graduate or
Graduate
professionals.
students.
It was just a random idea that I had with it, but what about the guy that came, the faculty senate representative? I don't know if maybe we can, because they were asking for a little bit more interaction with them or how they can help GPSC, so I thought maybe we could utilize some of them,
You mean put back
For
on
the-
that?
yeah, for the elections commission as well.
What you
I would,
Like faculty members as part of the,
I would shy
Election
away from
commission?
having anyone who's not
Ah.
a student on the elections commission, because the whole point is it's student self-governance, and so it'd be nice to
Yeah.
have students at every level, instead of, basically turning over control to faculty or staff.
Yeah.
But we could certainly ask him if he has any suggestions for students who'd be interested in serving on the commission who aren't already part of GPSC.
Sure.
Okay.
okay. I guess we do not have any other question for Barrister Janice, if I call you that. Thanks for coming, we appreciate your
Yes,
time
thank
today.
you.
Appreciate it, thanks Janice.
You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
If you guys have any other questions or stuff comes up, just make like one list of all your questions and then have Megan send them over to me, and then I can send them over to Russ and review any of those with you, just to make it easier. That way, if there's anything specific, I can send it over to the justices and they can look at it and get back to you guys.
Okay, again, thank you so much for coming. Now we're gonna move on. It appears that Jim is not around, so
Yeah,
we
he's
would,
not watching the live stream. I don't know if he's trying to call someone on Skype.
we would have to skip the first two
Wasn't he
items.
asking you this morning how to live stream and you didn't really give directions on?
I did give directions, but he said that he was confused and I told him to contact why I ran. But if he were watching, I would see that there was someone watching and there's no one else watching the stream right now, it's just
Are you
me.
sure that?
I guarantee you that YouTube tells me
Okay,
exactly how many
okay,
people are watching
okay,
this.
Anyways, so Jim
okay,
isn't
okay,
here.
okay,
Well,
okay, that's
I'm
enough.
sure he.
Maria, that is enough. I don't want to hear that anymore.
I'm
That's
sorry,
enough.
hear what?
That's enough.
We don't
The
need to
gym
talk-
thing.
Yeah, we don't need
We're
it.
just
We don't need
done.
anymore. That's enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on from those two items. Item number
Actually, can we
D.
talk about repository real fast?
Is there someone to talk about it?
Yes.
He has emailed us.
Yeah,
Okay.
we ran emailed
Okay.
us. So, because more heads are usually better, can anyone think of something, of a document that they would have liked broadly available that we can make publicly available to reps in the box? Because Wayren is setting that up right now.
No.
Apparently right now the only thing in there is a resignation template, so I'm pretty sure we can do better than that.
Definitely need that.
And Daniel.
What about the PowerPoint?
Yes, I can send that to Wayren.
How about what about your stuff for graduate professional student meetings with constituents?
Yeah, is that the same thing you're talking about? Or is that-
Yeah, that's got the.
Yeah, I can send him the constituency PowerPoint, and I can make the rep orientation PowerPoint a little more generic and send that to him as well, and so those can go up there so people can like self-orient
Is
or
that
whatever.
that's not the orientation PowerPoint, is it?
I've got two, so I'm gonna send them both. I
Because
think.
the actual PowerPoint that we use for people's orientations, like when we go to colleges and stuff, I wanna edit that because there's way too much text on that.
Yeah, so yeah, no, the constituency meeting one is different. I think it's shorter than the orientation one. But if you already were planning on editing the orientation one, we can edit
Send me
that and
that
stick
and
that.
let's just.
I don't
edit
have
it.
that, I don't think. Or if I do, I think I've got an outdated version.
Yeah, we'll talk.
We'll figure it out. Okay, anything else? Yes.
No,
The governing documents are gonna be in there.
I think you
Those are
said
already
we
on
have
the
them on the
website?
website
So I
already.
don't think we, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, as long as they're publicly available, I think it's good.
I know Wayren had mentioned that he told everybody, a bunch of people who were part of the box, all those people are SASG people.
Okay.
So he said that you all had some concerns about the people who had access to that.
Oh,
They
we were
all
just
had-
wondering who they were.
They're all
It's fine.
SASG
Okay.
employees, so they're good.
You know what we should probably do? I'll make this. Have a checklist of all of the responsibilities for the semester and for the year, and just have that in there. That way people don't have to comb through the governing docs. That would,
That's a good idea.
okay, do people like that?
Yep.
Okay, I'll do that and send that to everyone too.
We can also bring this to the GC for the
Ask
meeting.
what they would have
So
liked.
that's
Okay,
a good idea as
cool.
well.
So, alright, so
Done,
before
yeah.
the meeting, I'll try to make sure that everything else gets in there.
I'll send it to Dan, I'll put it on the agenda for
Yeah,
coming
Okay.
Monday.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I had.
Alright, thanks everyone. The other two items on the old business, both of them are actually me. GPS's strategic plan. Unfortunately, I don't have a completed version for you guys yet. Alright, I'm not going to promise a deadline for that any longer because it looks like I can't even predict my own schedule any longer. I have made some suggestions. Please, those of you who promised to make your comments, they know themselves.
Don't look at me. I'm not the only one.
Those who promised to make comments on it, I'm still waiting for your comment. But that's not the reason why it's not completed yet, though. And then also, some of the things we're working on this semester is going to be part of it. Some surveys Nick is going to work on. He's planning to attend this meeting to discuss that with us. It's also going to be part of the strategic plan. So that's why I may not have this ready in the next few weeks, but hopefully, and my goal is to have it before I leave this position. Question?
Okay, I know last time we talked about this, we were like, we shouldn't commit to higher graduation rates because there are too many ways to fudge those numbers,
Mhm.
etc. I found out that apparently having a 50% expected graduation rate for a master's degree program is considered totally valid, and I'm really uncomfortable with the idea that we accept students knowing that 50% of them are going to pay us a bunch of money and not get a degree. So I'm actually kind of reconsidering that. Do we want to like have any more discussion on that, or do we want to just leave that alone?
What I'd recommend is, since right now we haven't actually made any significant progress on the document itself, I'd say let's have a version that we can discuss
Okay.
and then have it on screen and then everybody can talk about it because we
Okay.
don't have anything on screen right now to
Sorry,
talk
just
about.
a brief
Yeah.
comment off topic. Jim couldn't do the live stream, and so he's on the phone right now. I have him on,
Okay,
and he'll be able
Okay.
to hopefully on the
That's-
loudspeaker.
that's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let us know when he needs to speak on any
Okay.
subject.
Hopefully, I've a lot of
Okay,
sources here.
the next thing, DACA students, this is about the letter we have been trying to write. The hold up on this right now, two things. I have sent it out to a few people within the university that I wanted them to kind of look over it and see what they think, since we're sending it out to Arizona legislature. And I want to be sure that we're not sending out something that would have some negative implications or something that the school feels comfortable with. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I've also been in touch with the other two grad student leaders. One of them mentioned a point that I think we'll need to update on. He wanted us to have more like a specific ask, something we're actually asking of and not just making a general statement. And then lastly, I think we're waiting on some other information. That
Yeah, Jim said at the GC that he would forward that email and I'm still waiting for that so we can incorporate.
So yeah, we're waiting for that information to include in that, yeah?
Was, Jim's on the phone. Can you hear me?
If he can't, then he's not
Jim,
part of the
can you
meeting.
Can you hear it?
He can hear it, not completely, but he
Okay.
can hear it.
Hey Jim, was that email from the Latin American Student Association? Was that the student group that sent the email about DACA? Yeah, it was the Latin American student group, correct? Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Wait,
that.
is it Lasso?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know Emily, I'll
Yeah.
just talk to her.
All right, thank you, Jim. That's very helpful.
He can
Uh,
get further explanation.
it's pretty hard to hear you right now.
I don't need any explanation.
Yeah, I think
just
we're
want the
good.
email.
I think we just needed to know the contact. Or the group, not the contact, the group.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
He said if there's other
He's
people that
compiling,
Cool,
compiling stuff to
perfect.
send it, he's gonna send it.
Awesome, thank you,
Yes,
Jim.
a lot of different information he's putting together.
Yeah, no, that's great. We just wanna get ahead of this because Trump is issuing things like consistently every day, so
Yeah.
who knows when some sort, we would like to be ahead of this.
I think they're actually
It's important.
considering, I read something online today, they're considering having a ban or issue a statement on that, on the DACA issue. So I think we should be as proactive as we can on issues like this
Yes.
and send out anything we need to send out as quickly as possible.
Well, for Warm Fuzzy, I think that we did a really good job on that executive order regarding the ban on people coming in from certain countries. We
Thank
were
you.
one of the first universities to make that sort of statement, I think, so.
You've been talking with the Immigration Student Resource Center too as well, correct?
I spoke with them
Okay.
once,
Okay, I just wanted to
with
make sure.
Mikey, yeah. Any other question? Okay, so moving on from DACA, new business, tuition and fees, and that's me. I really just wanted to give you guys update, myself and Daniel, and
You're talking about the University Peace Committee?
no, it's
Okay,
different.
never mind.
Myself, Daniel, and Dustin Tran, we've been sitting on a committee, not necessarily a committee, but it's a board that just kind of go through university budget and the need, and finally get to the point where they make that decision on how much fees and tuition are going to go up by. And thankfully, with the support of ASU as well, we've expressed our concern with fees and tuition going up, even course fees. We've expressed that concern a number of times, and we're trying to see how we can keep that as low as possible. Now, nothing has been proposed yet because it's a long process. However, can we not destroy that, please? Yeah. However, I wanted you guys to be aware of what's going on. There will likely be an athletic fee. They've thrown out a figure which is crazy. It's even more than what they threw out last year.
What's the figure?
Because it's not guaranteed, I don't want us to.
Yeah, we don't know
Yeah.
if we can talk about it yet, but
Because
I
it was-
can
it
tell
just-
you after we're off mic.
Yeah,
Sure.
they just threw it out there, but it was more than what they had last year. However, I was told that may not be the case. But still, we don't know what's going to happen. Now, one of us, our response to this is to conduct a survey, which I think we have a final copy now. That's my opinion.
We're waiting for
We're
approval,
waiting
right?
we're waiting
Final
for
approval?
3 people to approve that. The provost, Melissa, and Kendall to approve that, and then we'll go ahead and administer that survey. Am I missing anything for the
Yes.
tuition?
Basically, the fees are all on the table, but she said that we could do full fees, partial fees, at any point in between none and fully funded, and we could also say no, right? Like, that's kind of what our options are. We don't even know what the fees are yet still, like, we've heard some numbers, but we haven't actually received the information yet, so, that's something we're still gonna be working on over the next 6 weeks, I think is what they said, 5 to 6
Yeah.
weeks.
Okay.
So this is gonna be kind of a long-term process as far as the semester is concerned. We are gonna get that survey out very soon. Nick's been working really hard on that, and we would like for you, and we're gonna stress this at the GC meeting as well next Monday, please urge people in your departments to complete the survey. The more people that we can have saying we would like partial increase to a fee or no increase to any fees, like, it just helps us, because if we can say, well, they said yes to a partial increase on this fee, but definite no on this, then it helps us kind of gain some position and momentum with the board.
Yeah. Because, just to remind everyone, even though we had a survey that was filled out by 1,000 graduate professional students, President Hart said we didn't actually know what graduate professional students want.
Yes.
So, let's try to make sure she can't say that again.
Well, I doubt that will be case. I doubt that will be the case this time around, because first with the questions, we want to be sure that they approve
Yeah.
of the questions and to start with, and then we've been trying to see how we can ensure that we get as much response as we can. We're gonna have, is it a raffle or
No, not a raffle, but
What's
there
it
will
called?
be 2 gift cards
draw.
a gift
that
card? Yeah,
we
draw.
can do a drawing
Yeah,
from
to
the
see.
bookstore. We're pulling that from the marketing funds that I have available at my discretion. So we're gonna do 2 $25 gift cards, is what we decided, instead of one $50, because
That's
we thought that could be
perfectly reasonable.
more incentive.
Okay, another thing I wanted to share with you guys
Sorry, can we
is
stay on the topic of that survey real fast?
Yeah.
When is it coming out?
It should be
Noth-
out, we were hoping by the end of this week, but by the beginning of next week at the
Okay.
latest, we hope.
Okay.
Because we're waiting on administrative approval.
Okay.
Because we don't want it to be
Yes.
not counted because
Exactly.
they didn't approve.
and
it.
I can share the version we have right now with all of you
That'd be
if you
great.
haven't seen it.
It's
yet.
fine if we can't
I can
change
share
it
it
at this
right now.
point, it's just good to know
Yeah,
what it looks
I
like.
can share it. Okay.
Okay.
Are you
I'll do it
good?
right now.
Right.
Thank you.
One last thing on these fees and discussion. It's one of the things I'm thinking of pushing this year for grad students. It's a guarantee fee for grad students, possibly guarantee fee and tuition for grad students. So undergrad already have a guaranteed tuition where they come in and they have their tuition set for, say, the next 4 years, and it doesn't go up. Now we want to see if we can push for something similar for grad students. We've discussed it with one of the members of the senior leadership team, but nothing has been agreed upon. It's just a first step. We're trying to see if that's going to go anywhere. But I just wanted to throw that out to you guys so you be aware of that. Any question on the fees and tuition?
Is it worth it to say we will accept a partial library fee in response to not having an athletic fee?
I think if the survey says that would really give us a strong position
Yeah.
to take, right? And we can say, look, graduate students are interested in this because it directly serves their academic needs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas nobody, 20% of X, if we could get 2,000 students or more, that would be amazing.
Last time it was 5% of students were okay with an athletics fee and 95% weren't.
Exactly. So we can go in with some hard numbers and say there's X amount of graduate students, this many people completed the survey, based on Nick's thing with the surveys, this is the error rate, right? So we can roughly say that this amount of students, overall of graduate students, would not be in support of this.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
I mean, I'm fine doing that, absolutely.
Okay.
I-
It makes it easier to do that if the survey supports it too.
I really think that the survey is going to be our strongest point, and that's why I want us to see how we can get as much response as we can. I've spoken to a few grad student leaders to ensure that they get their students to participate as well. And if you have people you can talk to once we send it out, please help us do that.
I'm going to my union meeting on Friday, so if it's available on Friday, I can just have them all sit and do it.
Okay.
Great.
So that's just a thing to keep in mind.
Okay.
You could also,
Thank you.
we can tell reps if they're gonna have a constituent meeting, they could bring a laptop, and that could be a time where people could fill out the survey, and they could also get free food, et cetera.
Do you think 10 minutes at the next meeting for all of us to fill out the survey
That would be
a
great,
good
too.
idea?
Yeah, that's a good
Honestly,
idea.
we got 1,000 people to fill out the last survey without any incentives, so I wouldn't worry too much about turnout on this one as long as we have the same marketing push we had last
I
time.
think we say, hey, this is what the survey is like, now go tell your friends.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
I think that is a good thing to do for that meeting.
That's
Yeah.
what we'll do.
What worked in terms of marketing last time that we should try to implement again?
I honestly don't know. I thought that was
I
important.
remember there was a Facebook
Yeah, rage is
ad.
probably.
Yeah, that's also part of it. Nobody wanted the athletic fee, and
Yeah.
people were willing to say that.
So,
Okay, any other question or comment on this? If there's none, we're gonna move on to Danielle.
Great. Great. So Jesse and I sat in on the NAGPS phone call last Sunday, the 22nd. There were actually a couple of issues. We were supposed to speak with Sam, who is the Legislative Affairs Director for NAGPS. We were supposed to have a phone conversation with her on Saturday of this past weekend, but she was unable to meet with us. I had some major concerns about their platform for LAD, which is Legislative Affairs Days. Basically what they told me is when we're meeting with Congress, like what I was told in the phone conversation is when we meet with Congress, the two things that we're gonna talk to the representatives about, or the senators, both, I guess, is sexual assault and health insurance. Now, I think that these are very important issues. However, they said that we are not gonna be talking about visas and we're not gonna be talking about student loan debt. And I am very concerned that if we go in talking about sexual assault, that people are gonna shut us down, right? Like congressmen probably don't wanna talk about that, and women. Congress, period, doesn't probably wanna talk about that in meetings. I'm not saying it's not important. I think it's very important, as you all know. But I don't think that it's necessarily the correct platform to go in on LADs with. I think that we really, especially given the current climate, would have a stronger voice, especially this was prior to the EO happening. But I think even now we should really be focusing on visas and student debt, like graduate student debt, because as you all know, if you have student loan right now, it's accruing interest, unless it was one that you got before they stopped the whatever, I can't even think of it right now. But they're accruing interest as you're doing. So, I mean, health insurance, obviously, I think that that's important, but I think that, you know, their priorities might be a little skewed, especially we were only given a limited amount of time. Jessie agreed with me on this, and I really value her opinion because she really knows her stuff. So we're waiting to get more information. As you all know, this was my first, well, you might not know this is my first NAGPS meeting on the phone. So I really wasn't up to date. She wasn't really up to speed on what they're doing. So we're just trying to get a handle on that. Sam was kind of like, this is what we're doing, and she kind of seemed a little irritated with me, frankly, when I was like, wait, what? Can you explain this to me? So anyways, moral of the story is, depending on what they say on the phone with me and Jessie, we might not be sending somebody from GPSC to LADs.
Okay.
Just because I would rather focus attention at the state capitol at this point, or with ABOR, than nationally, if that's the platform that they're gonna push. Now, they are still pushing visas and stuff, but she said that they were gonna be dealing with the Department of State, which I don't really know what's happening with that right now, so how is that gonna be, how possibly could that be effective, right? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me at this point. I really disagree with this platform, so I'm waiting for more information, and as soon as I have that, I will update the EB and the GC as a whole. Jessie and I are gonna talk to her together. That was the thing, is we were trying to have a phone call together about this, because we just wanted to make sure that I wanted to know what Jessie thought about this as well. So based on what we heard on the 22nd, we were kind of like, this isn't a good idea. So I'll provide more information as soon as I have that. And if you have any questions that you would like me to ask NAGPS, I would be happy to do that. Get those to me. The next meeting is,
Just,
yeah.
what is the NAGPS doing to fight fascism? Would be a good question to ask.
So they have been sending out memos. I posted about some of the things that they have sent out on the GPSC, the post that Jude made on Saturday. I posted, they're supposed to have a call-in on Wednesday, but I don't have all of the information on that yet. Jude has sent out some stuff on the listserv, I believe, not just to me, it's directly from NAGPS, like with instructions about like, these are the people in your area, this is who you should call. But I don't think that they themselves have issued a statement yet.
They have actually.
They just did, okay.
No, they did on Sunday.
They did on Sunday.
issued stuff.
Okay. So right around the same time we did. I just haven't been up to speed with their stuff as far as that's concerned.
Basically, my question for you is, has the terrain changed enough for them to alter this plan? And also, I fully support you saying we're not sending people to Congress to talk about this when
Yeah.
Congress itself is burning to the ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. The next NAGPS meeting, next phone meeting is the 19th of February, so hopefully we can get a hold of Sam before that, because that's gonna be short turnaround time to book flights if we are gonna go. But like I said, I think that there's a lot more stuff that we can do on the ground here. And we could save that money from sending me to DC to something pointless, because like I said, if people are gonna just not even listen, then what's the point? That's the whole point of these types of days, is to get your foot in the door, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to say, this is what graduate students need, and if they don't wanna even listen to that, then I don't know how that can be successful or helpful. But if people at the local level, they seem to be way more willing to listen at this point, so, well, I just kinda wanna play it by ear until I get further information, especially given what's happened this past week, yeah. So
Okay.
there's that. If you have any questions, like I said, please let me know. I'd be happy to go over whatever I find with anybody individually. If you have questions, bring them to me and I can pass them along.
Awesome. Danielle, thank you so much on that. Just let us know what the outcome of your call with Sam is, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I want to assume, I'm also in a Facebook group with them, and I could tell them to add you in that group, but I think they've been also, with the recent EO and the things that have been happening from Trump's administration, I think that has shaken things up a little bit. So the discussion is changing. I'm hoping that they will move, or they would consider to add other issues to that list they have already. If there's no question or comment on this item, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is the executive order on immigration. Now, I added this on Saturday before we took the steps we did, but still I wanted to talk about it. Everybody in this room, I believe, would have seen the statement we sent out. I had sent an email to Faculty Senate on Saturday. It appears that they approved, someone sent that email to all faculty in the university, although that came with some backlash, which I never thought was going to happen. I was surprised that some faculty members.
Can you elaborate on He that? was accused of illegally using the faculty listserv, the all faculty listserv.
In fact, some people even attacked me for
Wow.
supporting students, and I made it very clear. One of them sent an email to the president and to the provost, and I made it very clear to him in my response that I am going to stand by my message, and I'm going to continue to express my support for students, and let it be on record. Whatever happens, I really care less. I am going to stand by what I've said, and I'm going to continue to express my support for students who have been affected by this executive order, or by any other executive order that this administration may think or maybe planning to sign. So we made that statement, which was released today. That's about what we've done on this right now. But if there's anything someone thinks we could do to still to kind of strengthen our voice or our statement on this, I'm happy and I'm open to talk about it. Yeah.
There's lots of resources for international students on campus, so I think the best thing that we can do is in the next newsletter make sure that we post, like include some of those links to the
Like a list
international.
of resources for them. That's a good idea.
There's also going to be a protest downtown at
Yeah,
Senator's
I
office
saw
tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm going to be there. Are we sending a GPSC presence, or am I going to go?
I'm planning to go as well. I don't know if I have 3 meetings
Okay.
from 3 to 6 p.m. with 3 people at my administration tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but I'm planning to go if I finish those meetings on time. Other than that, members of the EBs are welcome to go as well.
In terms of the link for resources, since this is obviously going to be, well, this is a concern for the international students that are from those countries, but it also, I think it's concerning for international students in general. I mean, maybe it's my impression as an international student, it's very concerning. So I think in terms of when we're doing the link for resources, there's an international students association. I mean, because there's
services.
not just not international students.
Okay,
There's
yeah,
also
yeah,
an organization for students, international students. So I think, because obviously I imagine the international student services as a lot of students coming in with questions or concerns, but it's talking to some faculty member is probably good, or the talking between students, international students, talking with each other and sharing their concerns. In addition to protests, that would be good to share that ISA link,
Okay.
maybe to advertise it in GPSC or share it in
Were you
Amber.
taking a list of resources? Daniel?
Yep, International Student Association.
Okay. Any other question or comments or
Does
suggestions?
anyone object to me taking the GPSC banner to the protest tomorrow?
Okay, the banner, I don't know about that because GPSC technically is not allowed to take any partition position on an issue. But that doesn't mean that we cannot support students. And that was part of the backlash that came. And I made it very clear, I never took any partition position on the issue. I just supported students and that's what I'll do. So I don't know if,
Okay.
I think, my recommendation is let's leave our GPSC logo on the protest
Okay.
and just have individuals there. That's my recommendation. Yeah.
All right.
What time is that?
Starts at 4.
Yeah.
Wait, it's 6 at 4, at what day?
4 p.m.
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. David, on Congress Street in front of Senator McCain's office.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Jessie told me she would not be able to make it any longer. Something came up for her. I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is GPSC officer position. Danny, you had something?
Yes, actually.
Is it on Jessie's advocacy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I won't be able to go to Phoenix in February.
Oh.
Yeah, my conference is ballooned out into something else, so I won't be here for that first half of that week. So I will try to find a replacement from the EGU to go with you guys, but I won't be there.
Do you guys just want to change the date? Because right now you're not going, or do you still want to go with Jessie? Okay.
I'm available.
Because I am not certain yet. I may have to be here for showcase. I'm still not certain if I would have to stay or go with you guys.
Right, well, if we're gonna
But
change
if Jessie and Daniel is fine going alone,
okay, well, I'll see if I can find somebody else, but if you guys figure that out then. It's you, if you two are the only ones who are going, you're the ones who are gonna make that call, but, if we are gonna change it, we need to change it like
Soon.
soon.
yeah.
Anyway, but
Okay.
that's what I had.
And if we're not able to find a day on a Wednesday, we can just look for some other day. Because I know, is it the family parents and what they call them? Is this parent group from
Yeah, they
student?
try to always have things on.
They're going on
Wild Calendars or
Tuesday.
whatever. Oh, they are?
Yeah,
Oh.
yes, it's Tuesday. So
Okay.
if we don't find a Wednesday, we can do a different day. Okay. Nothing else on updates, Daniel. Okay. So the next thing is GPSC officers position, and this is actually me and Danielle, and it's open to everyone wanted to talk about it. This came up because we kind of became concerned with how much, and Daniel said this at the last meeting, with how much of our total budget goes to EB members. We're just 7 persons in this room, and we, from what was budgeted last year, we're earning more than 10% of the total budget, and that, in my opinion, is just outrageous and too much. So we're thinking of things we can do to cut down on that expenses. I think that money will benefit other grad students more, and that's why we thought about options we have on the table now. It's one, merge the 2 VP position back to a single position and have that as a GA position. Option 2 is leave the 2 VP positions there, but then take away the GA part of it, so it just becomes a stipend, and we don't have to do the tuition remission and all of that. And I think that could potentially save us maybe more than 20,000 if I'm right. That could save us more than 20,000 if we take away the tuition remission and still leave the position the way it's. Option 3, it's okay. Maybe that's an option 3. Another thing we could also look at is 3,000 a fair amount for EB positions? Do we want to bring that down, or do we want to leave it at that level? Another option is, do we want to merge some EB positions? Do we think that maybe the assembly chair position can be merged with the executive vice president, or do we think that the AVP position can be merged with the secretary or treasurer or whatever? But now it's open to discussion, and let's talk about this in the next 10 or 20 minutes and have some recommendations.
I don't know about you guys, because you're both, but there's no reason in my mind why a vice president couldn't be an assembly chair, also be the parliamentarian of the thing. Especially, like, the reason mine takes as much time as it does is because I'm also doing legislative affairs and stuff. So it's a couple hours putting together an agenda and then being at the meeting, running the meeting. So that's certainly a possibility.
The only thing I would say is that the same person cannot be secretary and assembly chair.
Yeah, no, that's
But
totally.
we have 2 vice presidents, so
Yes.
guess what?
So the administrative VP could be assembly chair without any real consideration.
Administrative or Executive.
Well, I
Any-
think,
okay.
yeah,
We
but
can figure it out.
as like parliamentarian just sounds like administrative work to me more than anything else. But
Okay.
that's just,
Um,
Marcus.
Suggestion from me, just because of me, not really having a lot of time to do a lot of things with my particular schedule and graduating and whatnot, but still doing what I can with the social position. I wouldn't mind the cut down of the amount on the social position. However, that's just me, and it's a new position, and I don't know whoever's going to get into next year if they are going to be able to have a lot more time in their schedule to devote to it with me. But to me, I feel that the stipend could be put down by 1,000 at least. Or considering that I am getting the committee together and whatnot, but I have been doing a lot of the responsibilities on my own, and that can be shared if the things that I have and the documents and things that I've done, I feel like that can be shared amongst all members of the EB to make some sort of events happen. I don't know, just throwing that out there.
So are you saying that you think we can lower your stipend by 1,000 and still have someone be able to do what you do effectively? Is that what you're saying?
What is your stipend? Isn't your stipend right now like 1,000?
It's same with every other person. His
Oh,
stipend
it's
That's
is
3,000 now? Okay,
3,000.
that's good.
Is
Yeah.
that per semester?
No,
No,
for the year.
2 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 15 a semester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's 800 for the summer and then 1,200, or 600 for the summer, 1,200, 1,200. Yeah.
Mhm.
The thing that makes math work out.
Yeah. So either a cut down or eliminate the social
Position. itself?
position and have those things filtered in throughout the others. However, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out. I don't have a lot of straight details with it. And I don't know how long that position has been a part of GPSC and why in the first place it was created, but
Okay,
We had that position, to help with the events director, because it
No.
was different, and then it was a different position, but then after that, we also had, we didn't have a social chair, so.
Okay.
Jasmine, please let her get to a point that
So we didn't have a social chair, so, yeah, we didn't have that position.
okay.
So we've kind of
As like an assistant to the
had
event
and
director.
not had the position, basically.
Okay, Jasmine.
okay, so the social chair was completely separate from the events director. The events director is supposed to handle the really big things.
Mm-hmm.
The social chair is supposed to handle specifically small social events. So for example, the gentle Ben stuff, which I think was not entirely an invention by last year's social chair, but that's the sort of idea.
Right.
Like the small things that Kevin shouldn't be worrying himself about, because Kevin should be doing big things like student showcase, like GPSA week, like graduate orientation.
Mhm.
So you actually are supposed to be fairly separate from Kevin, although obviously sometimes you can work together with him to
Yeah.
like cross promote or to like spin something off. But traditionally, social chair has been separate. Social admin was this really weird thing we tried to create because the social chair claimed that she was way too busy. But then the social committee, because we've always had a social committee as well, said, wait, you never used us, why should we pay for a social admin? And then it kind of mutated from there and never actually accomplished anything, and so I think it's
Okay.
perfectly fine for us to just never consider a social admin again.
Can I,
Okay, Tanya.
So this is gonna be radical, but if I were to suggest something to the GC, this is what I think I would propose. Combine AVP and EVP again. Cut social chair and reassign those to events and to the VP. And cut the treasurer position because we have accountants that do the budget. So then we can just get a budget from them, and if we have questions, they can come in and explain, right? We could potentially ask them to either
That
send
could
a
be
written
part of your-
report or whatever.
The
That could
admin
be part of
assistant is
your-
also.
Yeah, I
Whatever,
mean,
you could be
your
their
VP
voice.
could be the
So
person
that's the
who voice
radical
that.
thing that I would do. This is not a direct attack on anybody and the things that they have done this year. I would just like to make that very clear because I'm actually advocating to cut my own position. So, just thinking out we did that, that would be $6,000 savings from the 2 positions if we cut those, which like I said, this is just drastic. If we're like, that's what I would do. And we recombine the AVP and EVP, and with that, we could potentially cut the remission, the ERE and tuition remission, right? So then we could get the stipend, the combined stipend of what her stipend is and whatever mine is. I don't even know what the stipend is because I don't get it. What is yours?
So
Total? Okay.
so
anyways,
here's the thing.
So,
Sure.
but that would
Sorry.
be, we could combine those stipends, the person could still get that much money for the year of the 2, but they just wouldn't
I
get
see.
the tuition remission.
So
Okay.
if we, I think what I'd say is if
Or we
we're
could do
thinking of
0.25.
combining both EVP, I'd say let's leave it as a GA position. That's already going to save us $30,000, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if we're thinking of combining the two VP positions, what we just need to do is to kind of reshuffle the responsibilities and make sure that the vice president has enough to do, just like the president as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think if we
So-
combine the positions, we would have plenty to do because
Yes.
I run all over the place into meetings all the time, so.
So regarding number of GA positions GPSC has had, before we had the 2 VPs as GA positions, we actually had a president's chief of staff that was
Yeah.
a GA position, and the
We did.
VP was not a GA position.
Mhm.
So we essentially we added 1 GA position, we did not
Yeah.
add 2 GA
I
positions.
know.
Yeah.
That's one.
So there's an issue though, because I would say that the president's chief of staff was being misused, and
Mhm.
so I do think that that person, like if that were a VP position instead, that could be given more responsibilities, we could basically get more work out of them than we were originally getting. That said, I would prefer that we keep all 3 GA positions and absorb some of the admin positions instead. So for example, make legislative affairs part of a GA position's responsibility instead of just an admin's responsibility. And then we can also absorb treasurer, well, okay, you're correct that we just don't even need treasurer because we have an admin assistant. So, I think Megan's idea of having one of the VPs be the liaison there, would be fine. We can absorb secretary and assembly chair into the 2 VPs. We can absorb legislative affairs into one of the VPs. We can absorb
Yeah.
marketing into one of the VPs. We can absorb social into one of the VPs. I think we can do a lot of that. The reason I'm pushing for keeping 3 GAs, even though it is more expensive, is that if you look at how many GAs we've had quit over the past 5 years, we have had 1 quit mid-year, and he was not actually getting any of the GA benefits or salary. On admins, we have had 5 EB, on stipends, we've had 5 EB stipend positions quit mid-year in the past 5 years, and we've had roughly equal numbers of GA positions and stipend positions in like GPSC. That's not including the 5 admins or 4 admins we had quit this year alone. We had 2 marketing admins quit. We had an institute director quit. We had who was it?
Okay.
We had another
anyways,
point
yeah.
being, you have the idea.
Sorry,
The point being,
one-
we have
one
a
after
really
another.
terrible turnover on admins and other stipend positions. We have a really good retention rate on GA positions. So if we want to be consistent and we want to actually like serve graduate students consistently throughout the year instead of having these random turnovers mid-year, I do think we should try to instead find new ways of using our GAs insteed of eliminating GAs positions.
I think,
Okay. If I just
I was raising my hand.
okay. So what do you want to say?
If you can wanna speak shortly, but basically I was going to say that I think we're putting the accents in a different order. I mean, basically the reason why a lot of those admins quit, I mean I can't say exact reason, but it wasn't.
Okay,
It's-
sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you because that's not the discussion I want to have, and that's
Okay.
what I wanted to talk about. Hold on, please. I'm trying to discuss on how to cut down on our expenses. I don't want to discuss on what happened in the past. People quit when this year started last year. I don't want to talk about that this year any longer. We've moved past that point. My discussion right now is what do we want to do to save money? Now, Jasmine, to your point of having a lot of GA positions as a way to make people stay, I know there is some truth to that, and I agree to that. But I also want to point out that when people want to be part of this organization, they will be part of this organization. And we have a few persons within us. We even have someone who is not even receiving anything at all, and she's there. And we have people who receive stipends, and they're there. And again, we moved from having roughly, I think 5 GA positions last year to having 6 this year. And another issue is we already have more support staff. Megan is at the office full time. What's her name? Caro is at the office full time. So a lot of the things that the president chief of staff could have done can easily be done by either Megan or Caro at this point. I honestly don't think 3 additional GA to the other 3 GAs we have. Then I'll get to you. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Daniel, go for it.
This is the unpopular thing to say, but one of the things we could do to easily get rid of cut money is stop giving stipends out to representatives and make the GPSC a fully volunteer organization.
I've
so
heard
that-
some
Like
people
most
say
other
the exact same
organizations.
thing.
Well,
I don't think that's
that's-
unpopular.
so that people who want to be here are the ones who are here, and people who don't want to be here won't be here. That's all I want to say about that.
I bet that's going to come with a lot of backlash.
But-
But come to
There-
think
there are
about it,
representatives who agree with this.
representatives, I think all of them don't even end up to 30,000 in total for the year. If I remember my value correctly.
It's way less
All of
than
them
what
put
the
together, it's not even up to 30,000 for
It's
the year. So
15,000.
yeah, it's way less than what we pay for 1 GA loan. So 1 GA loan is going to save us just enough
So,
money.
in that
That's-
case, can we consider having a 0.25 GA instead of a 0.5
So
GA for one of the
split-
VPs?
I actually really agree with what you were saying, Jasmine, about combining our positions again, and then with the other GA, instead of letting it go, we could kind of make a mishmash of some of the admin positions. We don't need a marketing person. I really don't think we need to hire that person again, like
Right.
to fill that role again, period. If we have somebody that's doing legislative affairs and fundraising, they could also write surveys and they can work with somebody to fill that. So that could be a GA position, combining those 3 plus, what else am I forgetting? What other admin positions are there? Those
Elections.
We can't
elections.
combine
We
elections.
can't combine elections.
Which is fine.
But that could remain a stipend.
Yeah.
But if we really want, like, this is what the conversation that I've had with Jude and Daniel, if we really want somebody, if we're serious about our position on advocacy, it would be helpful to have that as a GA position because, like, for example, this year we have Jessie who really knows her stuff. And it would be great to encourage, instead of a high turnover rate with those people, to have somebody for a couple of years who really can get the ball rolling and train somebody when they come in to replace them if their time is up, right, if they're graduating or whatever. So I think that that would really be a great course of action because then having somebody who knows legislative affairs and fundraising that would be working on surveys all at the same time could be a really great way to increase our outreach and visibility in the community.
Okay, so can we start getting to specific suggestions?
I think
right
that is
now?
a specific
That was a
suggestion.
specific-
I really
Yeah,
like that
that's-
These
suggestion.
have all been
that's-
specifics.
No, like start writing things down on what we want to do. Megan, go.
Yeah,
for it.
I think maybe maybe like you and I or the 3 of you or the 4 of us set a goal for what you want your budget to be for personnel,
Mhm.
and then let's work back from there.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like right now, I don't know what your budget for
Okay.
personnel is, but
Right now it's 102,000.
okay. So say you want it to be 50,000. Well, what can you actually do for 50? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So instead of being like, well, let's create a GA position here, like, what's your budget, and then make positions around that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a solid enough point.
I guess the one thing I don't like about that is I would prefer that we spend a little more, but have a guarantee that we can accomplish certain things, rather than say, oh, we don't really need legislative affairs.
We don't even
really
really
need-
have that guarantee right now, and we're spending
It's true.
$102,000. So I think
But I think we can do better about guaranteeing that, but it will probably not be at a fixed price range. I think we're gonna have to look at how much that would cost, and then probably look and say, okay, how much do we actually think this is worth $5,000 essentially?
Yeah, and I think you can flex it. So
Yep.
if you're at 50 and you like get everything done, and you're like, oh man, like maybe we need to rework this and it has to be 60. You know.
Okay,
I
to
think
to help us do what you just suggested, I think it's at least ideal to have some ideas of what people think. So let me start by asking,
Fine.
maybe it's more of emotion. Who thinks that having just the president and the vice president is a good option?
And no other GA positions in the executive board? Or
Hey,
what's
Yeah.
I would say if that's
Like
the only
who thinks
option,
who
that
thinks
would be.
merging the 2 VP is a good route to go?
Oh,
Like
Merging the two?
just
Yeah.
in general.
No,
just
having
in
only
general,
a
having just the president and the vice
vice
president.
president
I think-
as the
I think-
only
I think
GA.
it's-
so merging
I
the
think
2 vice presidents.
Yeah.
I think in
Are we
general
just
that's a
talking
good
about
idea.
merging?
That's a
Merging
good
the 2
idea.
vice presidents.
What do you
That's all we're
think?
talking about.
You think it's a
Yes.
good idea? What do you think?
Merging the two,
Yeah.
I agree, that's a good idea.
Daniel, what do you think?
If there are only gonna be 2 GAs and that's the only option, I think that that's what we should do. But if we could have the option to retain the 3rd GA and combine 3 roles into a GA position, because I'm sure
Yeah.
we would have qualified candidates that would want that GA position, and there would be a fight that would have experience for fundraising, legislative affairs, and creating surveys.
And it would almost certainly play into someone's like degree
Yes.
in a way that an admin position just can't.
Yeah.
You mean vice president?
No.
No, we're talking about
Keeping the
this-
3rd GA, but rewriting the role so it's no longer vice president. It's now very much an external marketing, legislative affairs,
fundraising.
yeah, fundraising, that type of role.
So it still brings us down to 3 GA
It
positions.
does.
Right, but
But
it
it still
cuts some
saves
of the
money.
admin positions as
Yeah.
well.
It cuts some of the admin
It
positions, it
costs
cuts some of the internal
2,000,
AV.
4,000, 3,000.
Yeah.
It doesn't get close to 30,000. That's the thing.
Okay, but
But we can
So,
combine that with.
assuming we
seconds.
combine legislative director,
Or EBC.
fundraising,
Yeah.
part of.
4 EB positions will only save. So 4 of those positions will only save us about 15,000 or
Yeah.
so.
But I
which
think
is-
part of the reason why we're objecting to the amount of money is that most of that money comes to the people in this group specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't mind spending a lot of money on personnel if we can get good personnel.
Yeah.
The problem is spending it on ourselves.
Yeah.
So if a GA ship moves out of the executive board and into an actual student somewhere else, that's a good thing. Even if
Okay.
it doesn't save us $30,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we are still directly helping students in that case,
Yeah.
in multiple ways.
Okay.
Well, and we're helping the organization too. It's still
Mhm.
benefiting the organization.
We would have
because
more
So-
credibility.
so one
of
thing I-
institutional memory.
So one
yes.
thing I have heard is that we don't want more than 2 GA positions within the executive board to start with.
Yeah, I would
That's
agree with
all
that.
this
We
is.
don't want more than 2 GA positions to start with. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's a place to start with. Any other thoughts or ideas? Do we think 7 persons as members of the executive board is fine, or
I think
5
it's too
is
many. I
okay?
think 5 is better.
I think 5 would be better too.
What do you think?
He wants to
This is the
graduate.
only like executive board thing that I've been a part of, and everything else that I'm a part of has 20 or more people, and it's the smallest thing I'm a part of. So yeah, it seems fine. Just as long as the group is able to function and really work well with one another, and that just kind of depends on whoever fills that role. So yeah, I don't know, 7 seems fine, or whatever.
What do you think is an
Sounds to me.
ideal number, 7 or 5?
I don't have an ideal number, but just my experience, I think just more people are better because they're able to grasp more opinions and they're able to represent kind of more variety. And 5 people becomes a smaller club and becomes, but I mean, if we're talking about having 1 VP instead of 2, that's gonna lower. the
Then we would
number.
have 6 people, and then
And
it
then
could be a
Issues
problem
with
because we could have
votes,
hung
yeah.
votes.
Yeah, but
So
then
we
we're
need to
gonna
have
get
an
rid of
odd
the
number.
treasurer.
One person
because-
up to another place.
Yeah, so if we absorb the treasurer role as well, that's 5.
Or social chair. I mean,
I think
not
it-
to throw
I think
anybody.
it-
Like I said earlier, not to throw anybody
Oh
under
no,
the bus.
yeah.
This is not
I'm
targeting
concerned.
you, and this is not targeting Jim. I'm just saying, like, we have people. We have Kevin who could do that, and he used to do that. Am I wrong?
He did not used to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, anyways, there could be the VP could assume some of the.
Yeah.
Okay, I think two things we can do, so that, because we're taking too much time on this already, it's, we'll find a way to bring down the GA for EB members to 2 maximum, and then I think 5 is a good number, and quite frankly, I think if you have 5 people who want to do the job, it's way better than having 10 people who don't want to do anything.
Especially
So,
because if you have
sorry,
10
yeah,
Yeah, after
if,
you finish.
if you have 5 people who are really doing the thing, it's more better than having 1 million people who just want to fight with themselves. So 5 is not a bad number for me. Honestly, I think it's a good number for executive board members. There's a general council that has tons of people. And ASUA, do they even have an executive board, or
It's just the
it's just
executives,
the president and the 2
two vice
VPs?
presidents,
That's
yeah,
it.
and
That's
the
3.
treasurer, which they go and flex with.
So that's
as well,
technically
actually.
just 4 people. So I think 5 is a good number for us. It helps us get effective more. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I think that, well, just, okay, and we didn't used to have, for a year, we didn't have a social chair in the organization function, so that's just a fact. In terms of having 5 or 6 people. Last year we had 6 people, and in terms of votes, that was fine. I mean, in terms of when we're talking about getting, having certain positions or others, I think we should be thinking about numbers, but not only numbers. The executive board is, as according to the decisions we made last year, the executive board is not supposed to be making their own decisions like
This
that
doesn't
are.
sound relevant.
Sorry.
Making their own decisions without the general council making the final decision. So even if we're thinking about 6 being bad in terms for voting, like the executive board, according to what last year the president decided, the executive board shouldn't be making the final decision.
We're not
So-
making any final decisions.
Right,
yet.
no, I'm not talking about tonight, I'm talking about in general, like the voting, the number of votes, whether it's 5 or 6, if there's like 3 people opposed and 3 against, 3 for and 3 against, that won't really matter, because it's the general council making the decision.
Okay, and if I was gonna agree with you that the EB should not make any decision, it should just be the general council, I wonder why have 7 people who would just be there and make no decision either way, and it all goes back to the general council.
Honestly, if I'm
I
just
really
sitting
don't
in a
see it.
meeting and talking and not getting to make decisions on stuff,
Why
then I don't want to
be
be at the
meeting?
meeting.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I can
okay.
save myself 2 hours.
I
every
think I want to
week.
move on from this discussion. Two things I'm taking away from here. It's we're going to find a way to bring down the number of stipends among the EB to 2 maximum, maybe potentially 1.50 and 0.25, if that comes up to 30,000 at most. But basically, we're going to find a way to remove one of the 0.25 GA. And then secondly, we will likely bring down the number of EB members to 5 positions and have 5 positions that are really willing to do the job. And honestly, I don't even mind if we have to increase the stipend a little bit, if that will get them to actually do the job and be accountable rather than just sit there and create more problems.
Sorry, can I really quickly chime in
Go
on that
for
one?
it, and I'll move on from this.
Yeah, so the previous vice president position before it was a GA
Mhm.
was like an $8,000 stipend, and we still had someone quit mid-year. And we still had someone vanish for the entire summer and not get paid for that summer. So I'm gonna say a higher stipend, if it's not a GA ship, does not actually improve retention. So,
Well, actually,
Okay.
I just wanna-
that same
That's
person
all.
Okay,
you're
I
talking
think we're
about
done
was-
on this now. Sorry, I've run out of time for this.
Yeah.
We'll get back at the next meeting and tell you the suggestions we have on the table. The next thing is stipends. I wrote Jim.
Jim sent a lot of different emails here.
Okay, well, we
So
could-
let
Why
me-
you're going through? If it's an email to everybody,
It is.
everybody
It's
have
regarding
it.
the stipend.
No, but it's to everyone.
Oh,
So
okay.
So
it's
we all
like
have
I
it.
look at it.
You
I
can
don't
look
look
at
at
We
it.
all have
Yes.
it. Megan, did you have anything to add to the
No,
stipend?
I don't know. Sorry.
Now, one of the things I wanted to point out with the stipends, not necessarily with the stipends. Last year, I think we had some members of some people join us in the general council, but we don't know at what point exactly they joined us. And
we're talking about.
Megan, do you know who those individuals are specifically?
I mean, I think we know where they all joined, cause
There
he's
were-
swearing them.
No, maybe aside
Are we
from
still talking
you.
about stipends?
Yeah.
Oh,
Who are we
I-
talking about?
I think let's move on from this, and I'll get with Christine and Claudia.
I think
Okay.
we actually need to discuss stipends a bit, because it looks like we're already having problems this semester.
What problems?
The problems of an EB member promising reps that they would be able to fulfill one of their duties by showing up to our random meeting. Because let me make this clear. We didn't address this last semester, and somehow proxies got counted as full attendance and people got paid despite not actually showing up to meetings. And apparently this year, or this semester, showing up to our random internal committee meeting is gonna get counted as volunteering at an event, and people are gonna get stipends for that. So I really think we need to make this clear now, because it got used against us last semester that we didn't make it clear earlier. So I think we need to discuss this.
Okay, is that something that we need to make clear at this meeting or to the
Yes,
general
we need
council
to make
members?
clear that no executive board member can unilaterally promise anything to a
Obviously,
representative.
who doesn't know that?
No, let's not talk about that.
Really?
Uh,
Why
no,
are we gonna talk
no,
about this?
specifically.
I think
No,
everybody knows that, yeah, and
Yeah,
I
can
don't
we
think
just- Can we just send out an email to
Yeah.
the executive board and to the general council
Yeah,
and
I-
not name names, because I think that's
I agree with
inappropriate
that.
and yeah,
I agree with that point.
it
Thank
serves
you,
zero
Megan.
purpose.
Thank
Really,
you, Megan.
because as far as I can tell,
Jas-
I don't bring it up now.
I don't want to
Jasmine,
talk about it. I think we should not
Jasmine,
talk about
that is enough. Megan, thank you for that. Whatever it may happen, you guys should trash it out over the emails. Everybody knows that no single EB member can single-handedly say to anybody that do this and that's going to be part of your responsibility. And whoever is in the general council that believes that, well, good luck to that person. We have our governing documents. Let them go and read those documents.
So what
and
happens if
be
someone does
involved.
that?
Jasmine, we're not going to talk about that. The next thing is club and
Jude,
POD.
can you just send out an email to
SS5.
everybody that
Yeah.
says that? Thank
The
you.
next thing, club and POD SS5 applications. Jasmine, that's you.
So, I think Danielle should probably take point on this mostly because she's actually on SSFAB. But the basic idea here is, if you saw the numbers Jim sent out at our last GC meeting, you could see that the vast majority of our club and POD money didn't get spent last year. We allocated almost all of it, and most people did not actually need it enough to go and spend it, which is a really big deal because we're requesting this money from SSFAB again, and as far as I'm aware from the discussions last year, and so this is where Danielle can correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I'm aware from the discussions from last year, part of the reason travel and research didn't get as much money as we requested was because we were also getting money for club and POD. So my recommendation is that we ask the GC to withdraw either both applications or maybe just reduce some of the applications somewhat to hopefully increase the odds of getting what we're asking for travel and research, because those actually do seem to get utilized, and club and POD seem to be very underutilized by comparison.
I'll let Nick speak on this really quickly because he was on SSFAB last
Who was
year.
the chair?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm 4 years deep on SSFAB. Withdraw those applications because every year the ASUA members say GPSC is getting so much more money comparatively. We should not fund GPSC club funding, and then the graduate students explain that that GPSC needs club funding because certain things that are requested for graduate student clubs can be paid for through ASUA club funding, and then it's 4 hours later. If you want full research and travel, pull those.
So
Okay.
currently sitting on SSFAB, and not saying what we are or are not funding
Right.
because we have not reviewed all applications.
You're like a week deep.
Right.
That's fine.
My recommendation would be that we talk about this with the GC, see what they want to do. Not that we go to them with that recommendation, but just say,
Socratic method it.
these are on the table. Historically, they have been funded but not spent all the way. We had to put this provision in this past year that told people that they have to spend this money or else. Because, like you said, if we don't spend all the money, that's just money on the table. And my suggestion is to get with ASUA and say, can we just, instead of us submitting a separate club and POD request, can we update the thing and or have a separate little section in there for the things that you don't cover for graduate students? Because there are some things for ASUA club funding that they will not cover for graduate students. However, if we would work with them, I think that we could get that done. Maybe not this year because the applications are already in and being reviewed. However, I think we could go ahead and get that language in place, so for next year, we could tag team it, yes.
Okay, Megan.
Yeah, I think ASUA would be open to having, I mentioned this to Jasmine, additional GPSC members sitting on appropriations, and then having, however much money set aside for graduate student only clubs, you could have separate parameters for that money, So I think that takes away a lot of the ambiguity or the concern with ASUA funding.
And I will also say that we thought we had an X amount of money this year, but it's probably about, that was less than we originally thought we had. Now we got the update that we actually have about $400,000 less than that even. So,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, don't look at their
so I would not go straight into the GC and say, we want you to cut this. I would say, what are thoughts about removing this? Yes, Daniel?
My question is, are we then, yes, we're not going to the GC, but would it not just be a good idea just to say we shouldn't do club and POD funding next year?
No, what we're saying is merge it up with ASUA's.
Well, so I think
program
yes,
right
there's two
now,
things
right?
actually. Okay, so for one thing, we actually are pledging part of our general fund to match the SSFAB funds on some level. And it's not a perfect match, I don't quite know what the ratios are, but we do have money set aside from our general fund to also contribute to club and POD. We can continue doing club and POD without asking SSFAB for any money because historically we don't spend it all anyway. So we can contribute our own general fund money to ASUA for this year, for them to set aside specifically for graduate student clubs. We can contribute our own general fund money for POD, for the student groups that actually make use of POD. We just don't need to request anything from SSFAB. That is my thought.
So is your recommendation that we should pull our application for this
Yes.
year?
Yes,
Is that what you're
that
saying?
is my recommendation.
Is that like a motion?
Wait, Megan had her hand up
Yeah.
really.
Megan.
I would say PODs does serve actual value,
Mhm.
but
Does-
doesn't. Yeah,
So we
I
should
don't-
reevaluate the ask and cut it by how much, or those separate
So,
asks?
yeah, they're
Those are
separate
separate.
applications, so
They're
club
separate,
is
that's right.
right now 10 and POD is
15.
15, yeah.
Okay, well,
So, but I think Jasmine makes a good point that there's separate money set aside already for those things.
Mhm.
15 might be, I think is more than enough for the amount
Yes.
of requests, and that's all I have to say.
And just historically, that's gonna benefit the other
I
apps.
would think it for sure, like advocating for pulling the club funding from SSFAB, and then maybe next year saying we're not funding clubs this year because POD money needs the money more. That might be just.
That's also a good
Well, and
thought.
ASUA has, usually about $100,000
Yeah.
to fund
There's
clubs,
some
so.
club funding in ASUA may not cover exactly everything grad students want, but that's where we.
Also, there are
Okay.
currently clubs that double dip and get ASUA and GPSA club funding, so
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly reasonable for us to pull the club funding application completely, and then the GC
Add it to
can
this.
probably
Yeah.
discuss POD.
Okay, all right. Are you done with that
I'm done.
point? Any other question? Moving on to reports. If you have a report, please just give it quickly so we can get through this. If you don't have one, we'll move on. Marcus.
Yeah, I have the next social this coming Friday. For the next 3 socials that are happening, I'm still within budget. Hoping to use the other budgets that's set aside to help with GSA week. Met with Kevin on particular events. Hoping to have a meeting with people other than myself on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. Any updates from your external committees?
From the what?
Your external committees or search committee? Any other?
No. It hasn't started yet. I'm on the search committee for the director of student unions. So I will send out an email if there's anything in particular that you all would like for me to have addressed. But I will make sure that I get the other discussions on trying to find cheaper forms for food for graduate students and everything that we discussed over the semester. So.
Okay. Secretary next. Thank you, Marcus.
So, been doing the minutes, sending out the recordings. We had a governing docs meeting last week, again, so we met and discussed, the old governing docs, any updates to them, sent some of those. And we have the old governing docs, those other changes that we previously proposed, some of them are pending. So hopefully some of those get approved or discussed, at some point. Other than that, that's all. My committees haven't sent any announcements about meetings. I'm not really sure why, maybe they're not meeting yet, maybe they'll meet in the future.
They haven't met this
This semester.
or
This
year as a
semester,
whole.
this semester.
But they met last semester.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I don't really know why, if, I'll be glad to, I guess I could ask them if,
I guess you should ask them really.
or maybe some,
To
I mean,
ensure that you're still
some
on
of
the-
the committees, best, from memory, some of them, I know in the past, some committees only meet like once a year or
Yeah, I
once
think you're
every
on some pretty light
semester.
committees, so I wouldn't be too worried,
So
but you
I'm
can go
not
ahead and
sure.
check just in case.
Okay.
Is Jim planning to give a report?
I think he typed his up. He's
The
been
next
sending out.
person is gonna be Assembly Chair.
So, we're having a meeting in a week, I'm putting the agenda together. Legislative affairs is gonna be meeting in the next couple of weeks, in between the travel schedule. The search committee on for assistant dean kind of imploded slightly last week, but half of our people withdrew their, applications, so we are in turnaround and hopefully we'll be finding one by the end of the year.
Are you allowed to elaborate on that?
No.
I can't say anything specific. We had 2 phone interviews last Wednesday. We were gonna have a phone interview on Friday, but the person withdrew their name, and another 2 or 3 people withdrew their name.
One person hasn't responded and one person
Yeah.
still hasn't responded and one person withdrew.
So of 16, we invited 5 to give interviews. Half of those won't be giving interviews for particular reasons, which means we have to go find more people.
Potentially, we're waiting on
But they
Chrissy to
didn't
confirm.
give reasons why they.
I don't know. I don't
No,
know. I
and
don't.
we can't talk
Yeah.
about that because
Yeah.
we're technically not on the
Yeah.
committee even though we're sitting on it.
I will say.
What?
What?
Like, we're there, but we're not there. Do you know
I
what
will,
I'm saying?
yeah.
No.
I will say that Chrissy Lieberman says that we're better off, we're more likely to find people in March anyway, so
Okay.
the applicant pool shouldn't be increasing in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll find a qualified person. Daniel and I are fighting for someone who has graduate student experience, so that's part of it too.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not compromising on it. We're not going to compromise on someone quality just to fill in this position that's already being adequately taken care of by our admins,
Yes.
lovely as they are.
Agreed.
Alright.
Okay, well noted. Thank you so much. I was gonna ask, have you been able to reach out to Campus Pantry on the food insecurity issue?
Jesse and I are going to be meeting with them soon. She got an email to me a couple of days ago. She's running most of that right now, so we'll hopefully be able to do something useful with them in the next 2 weeks.
Just to point out, I spoke to the student union. You might have noticed that they are having a competition coming up, the rooftop garden
Yeah.
competition, and they told me that the intent is that when they finally have that set up, the produce from that idea is going to go back to the campus pantry, and that's why we are sponsoring that program,
That's a good idea.
because it kind of supports the pantry, and I told them I wanted us to be involved in anything that's gonna have a positive impact on
That's a
food
good idea.
insecurity.
Are they also going to consider picking the oranges and olives which already grow on this campus and giving those to the
Right.
pantry?
Well-
That might be a good thing to spend time.
That's actually a very good thing we can start pushing for. I don't know who might be the best resource or
If they're-
department to
if-
talk to.
If it's okay for them to pick vegetables on the roof, then it's okay for them to pick fruit that's just already here, so that's what I would say.
And I know actually our
Do you
former
know which
Kaplan-
department on campus might be?
Probably Kaplan, because I know our former Kaplan rep was actually really interested in starting an olive harvest. So,
Yeah, but I don't
That's a very good thing to look into,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
to push for
and
that.
other universities have done this. So,
Yeah.
There's a nonprofit in Tucson that picks the orange, yeah, Ishkashita does.
It's a good idea. They're very bitter, but it's a good idea.
I think it's a good thing for us to push for, really.
Yeah.
It's something.
Just put some extra
of them
water
are
and sugar in
ornamental,
it,
but
then
some of
you're
them
good.
are actually just straight up edible oranges.
Yep.
Some of them have a half and a half are actual food. The rest of them are just great, but the ones that are food could be picked.
Okay, awesome. We'll look into it. Jasmine, you should be next. Is Jim ready?
Okay, I thought.
Jasmine, go
Um,
I
next.
thought he said his report.
yeah, I think he's sent his report. Okay, so the Executive Director of Residence Life Search Committee has finished its interviews, and at this point, the 2 chairs of the committee are essentially deliberating, and so I assume that an offer is going to be made pretty soon. I mean, either that or we'll have a failed search, but I'm not expecting that, so I'm optimistic that we'll actually be hiring someone fairly soon. The CIO search committee is still defunct, so it sounds like that one is just a failed search, and I don't really know what the plan is on that one, but it also seems like things are running pretty well, so I'm not that upset about the situation. For Committee of 11, we've started to work on a new white paper. I don't know if any of you remember the last white paper that Committee of 11 put out, but it was a discussion of the state of research at U of A, and it was critically acclaimed, I guess, but then no one really listened to it, so this year we're going to be trying to have a white paper with a bit more of a call to action rather than just a discussion of what we're seeing, and so hopefully this will actually make an impact. And then we had a couple of reps resign either at the end of last semester or the start of this semester. Fortunately, we also already had reps sign up as alternates for those positions, so it looks like those constituencies will still be covered, thank goodness. We had a pretty productive term limits committee meeting earlier today, and those recommendations have already been sent out. And other than that, Unless someone has a specific question for me or something I forgot about, I guess, graduate council. There's been discussion of eliminating K grades, because apparently there are some very strange edge cases that can result when, say, your advisor moves to another university before you finish, and they assigned you a K grade, because the person who assigned you the K grade needs to then remove the K grade. This means I'm kind of nervous about what's going to happen to my K grades, but anyhow. So that's an ongoing conversation. It sounds like it's not going to be resolved immediately, but if you know any graduate students who have been struggling to get some K grades turned into like completed grades, that would be nice to know.
For clarification, K grades are in progress, so if you're writing a thesis or dissertation
Yes.
or have some sort of long-term project for your program of study, a K grade is usually given because it demonstrates that you're completing the semesters and the requirements, but that you're still moving ahead, but it's not finished yet.
Right, because you get graded based on the final product.
Correct.
Not based on
So your
progress.
dissertation being
So they're trying to remove that, is that what
They're
you're
trying to remove it because the change of grade procedure is very onerous. And so it's causing some problems administratively.
So are they gonna start grading dissertations and masters like
I
past
think they just
semester, or
wanna
what's their?
not
That was
function.
basically the idea, yeah.
So they do you have an A for.
No,
No, it's not
letter
gonna be a
grades.
letter grade,
It's
it's gonna
like,
be
They give you a
S-
pass or fail.
yeah,
basically.
no,
yeah,
no.
it's like SPF or something
superior,
like that.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question,
Yeah.
just about the alternates as a governing docs chair, I'm just interested. So, how were
Hold
their alternates assigned?
I'm not the person to talk to, I would talk to
Can we get
someone
back to
else.
this, because this is actually impacting me personally as we speak. Like, so there's a superior pass fail, so as long as, so what, you're like demonstrating.
Yeah,
something?
because this isn't set in stone. This
Okay.
was a discussion, but I think almost everyone present had some skin in the game.
Okay.
The idea would be that you'd be getting an S, P, or F based on whether you're making satisfactory progress towards the completion of your thesis.
Okay.
As it currently stands, let's say there's someone who's just completely slacking off. Well, by default, you need to give them a K grade,
Mhm.
which means there's no record of the fact that they have not actually been making satisfactory progress. So now if you want to kick them out of the program, there's no record of any need to kick them out of the program, even though their advisor knows full well this person has not been making satisfactory progress, but their advisor has been required to give them Ks over and over. That's one problem. The other problem is your advisor then needs to go back and file a bunch of change of grade requests that cannot be done automatically. And that is apparently also causing problems. So regardless of whether you're making satisfactory progress or whether you're not, it's causing problems, period.
Okay.
So there have been recommendations to try to change that, and so
Okay.
that is where the graduate council currently is on the matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just, but who would know about the alternates?
I would. Maria, the alternates are filled as according to the elections code. Check that.
Well, what can
Okay, we don't need to have
Okay,
this conversation right now.
Mara,
It doesn't-
Mara, please, I ask you
I'm ready
to
to
go.
please
No,
stop. Daniel, one thing I wanted to
Yes.
please talk to you about it. I noticed we've been swearing in candidates not during GC meetings.
Right.
I'm gonna ask that let's try as much as we can to share to swear in candidates during GC meetings, and if we are unable to do that, if we have to swear them in after meetings,
Okay.
just send out a notification to GC members and let them know there's a new person,
Okay.
so everybody's on the same page that
Sure.
we have a new rep here. Thank you. Daniel, it's you now.
Yep, Faculty Senate hasn't met yet this semester. The next meeting is Monday, so I'll attend that. SS Fab, we've been meeting since the first week of the semester. We're reviewing applications each week currently. The marketing committee that I'm in charge of internally, I have emailed people repeatedly, and I'm still waiting to hear back from some of them about their schedules, even though they said they would get back to me, they still have not. So I'm gonna send out a Google Docs, that way we can go ahead and start having some discussions, because there's some things I wanna move forward on. We're having a fundraising meeting on Wednesday. I'm meeting with Sarah and Janelle and Jude if you're able to make it, I don't know, and Megan if you're able to make it, that's fine if you're not. I can't remember if I invited Kevin. Anyways, those 4 people, roughly 5 people maybe, and I will update you all at the next EV meeting what we talk about. We're gonna keep this small initially just because I wanna see what people are up to, what their ideas are, and then I'll make suggestions based on that to the council, the EV and the general council. Because one of my plans this year is to get some marketing documents in place with infographics and to get some like ask documents in place. That way we can have stuff codified to say, when you go out to a business, this is basically the script you should have memorized. the rough, the initial ask of like the presentation of what we do, what we need, all of that, and then you can go from there as necessary, right? But to get those things in place, and people can make modifications to those as necessary in the coming years. But it'd be nice to get those things together because we do need to rely more on outside funding because that's just the nature of the beast. We rely too much on internal funding. Some of the other things I talked about already, LAD, we talked about that hiring committee, we talked about the tuition and fee board. Well, it's not really a board, but it's a committee, I guess. And then, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Any question or comment for Danielle? Okay.
Oh, I worked with Nick on the survey. We're getting gift cards together. I said that already.
Okay, thank you. For me, I think a lot of what has been consuming my time lately, it's the fees and tuition discussion and also the course fee issue. Tomorrow, myself and Mikey will be meeting with Dr. Keyboard to talk about the course fee because we've expressed objection to chemistry proposed a $140 course fee for just one course. And we've expressed our objection to that, although some people don't like it, but we're standing on our ground that we don't want unnecessary course fees. A department should not wake up one morning and say they want a new course fee for a course they've offered for like 10, 20 years and never had need for a course fee. So that's one thing we're talking about. On a related note, on fees or money, they just proposed a $10 increase in Laudia house rent. I attended the meeting last week and I spoke against it, but apparently it looks like they will submit that proposal to Melissa, but I don't think that the fight is over yet. We'll keep speaking against it. Last year they increased Laudia fees by $30 without informing anybody, and now they're planning another $10 increase. For some reason, they always find a valid reason to increase house rent. And I've said it clearly that I stand against that, and we're trying to see what we can do with that. With committees, not too many of them have met this year. Speedback has met actually. Mostly the discussion was they wanted to update the Never Settle strategic plan for the university. Faculty Senate Executive has met. It was just mostly giving reports on what's going on. The fees committee met a couple of weeks ago, and that was when we had to discuss tons of new fees and increases in fees, and some departments that were nice enough to delete old fees that they didn't have need for any longer. Another issue, I have expressed my frustration with grad college on departments having hidden fees that students are not aware of, and they do not know that they would have to pay all these I don't want to use the word crazy because it's an official setting, but that's my opinion on it.
Unnecessary fees.
Very
that they don't
unnecessary
know about,
fees,
yeah.
and they do not know about it. So at the next is it called General Council, Graduate Council meeting?
Graduate Council.
We've asked to talk to them about that. We want to ensure that all programs become transparent with their fees. So if they're charging any course fee, let them put it on their website, let them put it where prospective students can actually see those fees. And if that's going to turn away students, then let me not use that word, but if that's going to turn away students, then let them lower those fees, basically. We want them to be as transparent as they can with any course fee they're introducing. And I've also started doing outreach with some cultural centers and some grad student leaders. One of the cultural center individuals I spoke to today wasn't willing to, I was basically talking to her about trying to recruit people to run for GPSC positions. She had her reservations, which I understood, considering GPSC right now, but still, my goal is to see how we can recruit from all of the cultural centers and have a very diverse student leadership next year. Hopefully, if I can add that to my schedule, I'll try to attend the meeting Chrissy talked about last time with associate deans and speak to them on that. And I've met with a few grad student leaders as well, meeting with some of them this week also, law and a few other colleges. And the goal is to find things that we can work on together and also to start working towards the fees and tuition issue. And I met with the interim faculty chair today, and like I mentioned earlier, people did not like the fact that my message went out to all faculty, and I've gotten emails from like 3 or 4 faculty members now who if they had their way, they probably would, I don't know, probably would sue me. One told me he's going to find a smart lawyer. But that's I think that has been settled because President Hart finally sent out an email herself, which is not too different from my message. So if anyone has a problem with that, let them take it up to President Hart. And 2 other things, we've asked to have grad student representation on the search committee for athletic director. We've not gotten a response yet. I don't know why they've not responded to that, but we want to be sure that we have students on that committee. If they're going to want to charge us athletic fees and they do not want us to be part of the search committee for a new athletic director, that's kind of strange to me. If you think that grad students should be paying the fees, then let us have a voice in the committee to choose a new athletic director. But they haven't I've sent that email to the provost, to the president, to Melissa. Melissa has said she's not aware of any committee. The president is yet to respond to that. I also sent her an email regarding the senior VP for health sciences. She responded to that, and she said she will not be naming a committee, that the next president will be doing that. So if for any reason I'm no longer in this position by the time the new president comes in, it's going to be the responsibility of that individual to follow up and be sure that they have a student representation, preferably someone from health sciences on that committee. I think that's about all I have for now. If there's another thing, I'll definitely send it your way. And please, if you can, try and participate in a call on Wednesday. If you cannot call, at least tweet something if you have a Twitter account and use the hashtag don't ban me. Unless you guys want them to send me back. Oh, I'm kidding. My country is not part of it, but still, try and be part of the advocacy effort on Wednesday. Okay, Dean of Students, it is your turn. There was something I asked to.
Yes,
Okay.
I know I had to do the same thing. So Janice is hosting an open meeting laws presentation coming soon. It was supposed to be scheduled for next week Monday, but now they're thinking about changing it. Well, it's not going to be next week Monday. And Chrissy and the Dean of Students, admin team, and all of us would love for GPSC to be there. ASUA will be sending representatives as well. It would be particularly pertinent to anybody who's looking to run for assembly chair next year or be on executive board, so we can make sure that we are following state law. The conflict is that they would like to do it on Monday, so the meeting would be from 5:30 to 7. And so my thought would be, I asked Jude earlier today when I thought it was going to be next week Monday, would be to allow a couple of people on excused absences to attend this meeting. Alternatively, it could be during executive board, and then you all could go to the meeting and then have your meeting be like only an hour that day or whatever.
Can I ask?
Sure, go ahead. Go for it.
I do think that having an open meeting laws like recap would be really good for us, but I also don't think that it affects the vast majority of reps. So I would greatly prefer that we cut into our EB time versus cutting into GC time.
Yeah, so what she has proposed is that they have it on a Monday that EB
Yeah.
will be maintained.
I'm saying I prefer that over
Yeah.
the alternative.
It would be from 5:30 to 7, and so you guys could still have your meeting from 7 to 8, because it'll be in the union.
Another option is we could reschedule to a different day. You said
The
you were not
executive
going
board
to be
meeting.
available on Monday 23rd. Do you want us to reschedule the meeting for that week to a different day, maybe Thursday or Tuesday?
We have a meeting for SSFAB, but the long meeting is actually that Friday before, the 24th.
Could
So
not do Monday.
the 27th, I have an SSFAB meeting, but it's from I think 3 to 5 or 5:30.
If I
Okay.
recall correctly, there is no other time all week that works for everyone.
Okay,
So,
that's just another thing.
I would say that we should just get our work done in an hour.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds
So
great
meet
to
from
me.
7 to 8?
Yeah.
and open meeting laws from 5:30 to 7.
Okay.
Where's that meeting
that's-
at?
They haven't scheduled the room yet, but it'll be somewhere.
Have
So
you
you'll
guys
send us a letter.
picked a date yet?
No, because Janice wanted me to ask you all.
Can you do it not next week, the other week? I'm hoping that between now and 2 weeks, we might not have a lot in our agenda yet, so
It'll
that might
have
be the best meeting to have a 1 hour
Okay.
meeting.
the February 13th
Yeah.
date. Okay. I'll request that. It has to do with, I think more with the student media, because Brett Farah, who oversees student media, is like co-presenting with Janice and he wants all of his like student, reporters and everybody to also be there. So, yeah, it's like coordinating everyone's
Okay.
schedule. So I'll,
If you can push
request
for that
it
date,
for next
that would
week,
be
yeah.
great, yeah. Okay,
or not next week, but
13th,
following
yeah.
week, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
More
you.
reports? Any other reports? Any other thing going on with Dean of Students?
That is it.
Okay. We're still fine, right?
What's that?
We're still fine.
All is well.
Am I getting impeached?
You know how many signatures it would take to impeach you?
Oh.
Like,
Okay, so Nick, it's gonna be you now, the last.
Okie doke team. So June's meeting with Melissa tomorrow. We'll have final thoughts on the mandatory fees survey that we've been working on. Hopefully that'll go out later this week. Yes.
final thought on that, you didn't include all of the options for what type of degree people could have.
Okay.
And I don't know how much that matters, but like,
Sure,
I
we
said,
can still include that.
What are
It's
other-
not a problem.
Oh,
Masters
like
of Public
yeah,
Health,
yeah.
I think is actually not an MS, it's an MPH.
It's an MPH.
And then
yeah.
also, pharmacy, PharmD,
Mhm.
is not a PhD, it's a PharmD.
Yeah.
And then there's like 10 different like law school letters. So I think maybe just an other checkbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was added since
Okay,
you've last
great,
seen it. Yeah.
fantastic.
Because I was struggling to even find all the colleges that people can be grad students in.
So many.
But yeah, like any weird clerical
Okay.
things like that have likely been resolved.
Great.
But yeah, we're just waiting on final thoughts from Melissa, and then Danielle secured the incentives, so we're gonna move forward with that, and it'll likely be distributed sometime later this week, and we'll close. We talked about like prior to the 20th.
Yeah, we'd like to get that turned around as quickly as possible because, like I said, this is a 5 to 6 week process from last week.
Yeah.
So basically the reason for that is that board will make recommendations and then President Hart takes those to a board who
Yeah.
sets everything finally. They have the final say. So they could ignore our recommendations if they want to. But we need to get that done before it's time for her to make her decisions and those recommendations to be made. So we need to have that stuff on the table for the last meeting, preferably before that, but that's
Yeah.
just the timeline we're working with right now.
So
Yeah.
Nick, if we send it out this Friday, is it good enough? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
It'll be open for a little over 2 weeks.
So like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
How about we send it out say Wednesday? Once I speak with Melissa tomorrow, then
Well, yeah, that's the thing is I can.
Wednesday.
It can be done immediately once we're
So
done
start
meeting.
1st of February to like 20th.
Mhm.
Back together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other two that are in the pipeline are about career readiness, which, did we talk about that last time? Possibly not, I haven't been here in a while. The next two projects are about career readiness and resource scarcity for graduate students, so like grant funding, a couple other things that are not coming off the top of my head right now. But those are being written and will come to light after this one is distributed.
So basically, two other survey we're thinking about, and you guys can chime in on that. It's one we wanted to kind of assess and see if grad students think they have enough resources on campus. Please
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong on anything. More like a resource survey to just see if there's, and maybe the goal is also to see if there are some kind of resources that we can push for as GPSC. And then the other survey is to see if people feel they are well prepared career-wise. I know some PhD students have shared sentiments of not being, of not having enough resources from the career services to prepare them for career life. So we want to kind of get a survey on that, a date on that, and see where
Mhm.
that takes us to. But again, please, we would like to get your feedback on that. If you're going to say something now, that would be awesome. If
Yeah.
you're going to send an email, that would be great. But he came because he wanted to hear from you all.
Yeah, so I mean, you don't have to have specific questions or things that you're interested in about right now, but you can
Send it
email them to me
Mhm.
in the future. Just because I want to make sure that like we have a collective idea of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Can I have one more question about that fee survey?
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's okay if you can't change it, because I realize the important thing is get this out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
but I noticed that you explain that, 58% goes to UITS and whatever the remainder is goes to the libraries. And then you just say, like, something like, would you wanna, are you okay with an increase or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Oh, there's a lot of that has changed.
Okay, alright, never mind then.
Yeah. I see where you're going.
Yeah.
That's resolved.
Okay, great.
Did you send the current survey to her?
I forwarded
Danielle
it to
I was gonna
everybody.
say,
the latest
you
version
guys
she
have
had,
it,
but I
yeah.
guess it's changed since then, and it's fine.
I was gonna say, it changed like this morning.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
When
Okay.
Joel sent me an email.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one I sent.
Is
Was
it a
Joel
version
sent
I
it this
have
morning?
on mine?
You've seen it.
So that's-
if
I
you
believe
sent it
that's
to
a
Danielle
version-
then, okay.
I forwarded it to everybody and
Oh,
told them
then
if they
that's
had questions
realistically
to
probably
send
fine
them to
then.
me, and then I will send them to you.
Yeah. I made like
I'm
a
gonna
comma
send out the
change
version I
today.
have just to be sure we
Okay.
have.
If it's from the email this morning, that's the one I sent.
Yeah.
Okay.
No drastic changes have occurred in the last 12 hours, just like I removed a comma.
Okay.
The
Okay.
one that I sent was from, I can confirm this in just
Yeah.
a second.
Okay.
I guess basically my question, and maybe you have already addressed this, but I'm just gonna like spell it out for everyone who hasn't looked at the survey yet. The survey says, okay, information technology gets 58%, library gets 42%, the total fee is $240. Question, like yes or no, I would support an increase in this fee and the services it provides to students. But like, it seems like students could say, well, I'd like an increase in library, but not in IT, but
Yeah.
That's what I
if,
forwarded.
like, from the
No,
language,
I
it
think
sounds
the
like
email
any
I
increase
have-
would be still split that
let's see.
58-42.
Yeah, so we don't determine that.
Okay.
That fee allocation, same with health and rec, is determined by ABOR.
Okay, so that is actually a fixed percentage allocation?
Yes, and that's off
Okay.
of the Bursar's website.
Got
That's
it.
not just like,
Okay.
I looked at the budget and
No.
decided these
No,
percentages.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know that. I was just not sure if we had the option of requesting
I don't
an
think
increase
it's
only in
that
library.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Alright,
It
never
would
mind,
be
then
it would
it's
be a
fine.
flat increase to the fee following the
And it would-
persistent allocation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just kidding. The email that I have is from 127, and Jude has one from today, so he's gonna
But
send out an update.
there isn't any major changes. I think it was
Yeah,
just
no,
a
it
final-
sounds like everything I.
Yeah, there
I
it's
read
like
about is-
semantic changes.
But I'll
Yeah,
send
that's
it
fine.
to you now, Daniel.
That's
send it
good,
to
thank you.
Yeah.
Just so I
Okay.
can be abreast.
Yeah, but that's just to clarify,
Yep.
we cannot affect those
Got it.
allocations.
I want to close this meeting before
Yes.
8 o'clock. Any other comment or any other statement from anybody? If there is none, can someone motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Go on, everybody.
Or-
Okay, thank you guys for coming. I'll see you all
Alright.
again.